Hi, I'm Darren Burke, business coach and mentor to small and medium private business. In this video, which I've titled Springsteen and Us, I just wanted to talk about how, sometimes we need to go through certain stages in our personal evolution to reach the goals and the heights that we want to achieve. It doesn't necessarily um, follow that a binary goal goes from our starting point at T0 to our end goal at T1. There may be some interim or intermediate steps in that journey. And the Springsteen and Us analogy that I wanted to share with you, I've just read a really interesting sort of underground book called Deliver Me From Nowhere, which basically specifically talks about Bruce Springsteen's making of the album Nebraska. And this isn't so much a video and commentary about Bruce Springsteen, who I do love as a major artist, but more about a particular aspect of his journey that most of you will be unaware. Bruce Springsteen is one of the largest, recording and music artists in the world. His famous 3-hour shows, are known all around the world. His 3-hour live concerts. There's a saying that everybody needs to see Springsteen at least once in their life. I even brought my dad along for a night just so he could see him once with me, which he loved, and I'll remember that forever. He's called the boss for a reason, and Springsteen has this incredible pressure that he puts on himself, where people say to him, well, how do you deliver night on night for these 3-hour shows? And they're all these, epic 3-hour live performances. And he says, well, I always think about that one person in the crowd, or not one person, but I always think about a person in the crowd that has never seen me before and will never see me after. And his mind just zeroes in on imagining this person is only ever going to see him once, and he wants to be the best he can ever be for that crowd member. And it's an amazing self mantra to help you be your best. And I guess by extension, in terms of this analogy, the story goes that Springsteen had become a critically acclaimed artist by his early albums, but wasn't massively widely known internationally as a commercial artist. And he was certainly well regarded and critically acclaimed as a major artist, but hadn't gone to that mega star level. And he was writing a lot of songs. And he was sort of writing two different sort of songs. He was writing some sort of traditional folk rock type ballads, and was known as a songwriter. And then he was also emerging as writing these more populist commercial songs, which would later appear on his major breakout commercial album, Born in the USA. And the the record label didn't know what to do with him. He didn't know sort of who he was. And he went through this incredible period of deep depression and self-doubt, and he'd become a bit of a recluse. He'd kind of temporarily disbanded the band, the E Street Band, his famous band, and he was kind of sort of privately sort of hanging out and writing songs himself, and kind of isolated himself. And he famously went to a hotel room with a 4-track recorder that was about $1,000 in the day, which is nothing, and certainly isn't professional recording equipment. And he had a plug-in mic and his guitar, and I think a basic keyboard apparatus. And in a hotel room, he recorded Nebraska, which was a stripped back album. And interestingly, while he was lost and depressed and finding himself, he prolifically wrote a whole bunch of songs. And he came back and kind of handed this cassette, which they had to remaster from these basic recordings, which became Nebraska, which became an incredibly successful top 10 album in its own right. However, 12 months later, Born in the USA comes out, which stays on the Billboard charts for 143 weeks, spawns 7 top 10 singles, and takes Springsteen to that next level of megastar, up with the greats of the modern day rock artists. And the whole book, Deliver Me From Nowhere, is about how Springsteen had to write Nebraska and record Nebraska to actually find himself, to then elevate to writing and backing up live and post production and recording and the live concerts that followed, Born in the USA, which we now know today as his, I guess, populist recordings, commercially most popular recordings. So I thought it was a really interesting story that relates to all of us, that what he didn't know was that he had to go away to that hotel room, find himself, write Nebraska, get that out of his system, that then freed himself up so he was unencumbered to write, and not only write, but write, record, release, and deliver on Born in the USA. So he didn't know that at the time, but there was this important major watershed stepping stone on the journey to Born in the USA, which was Nebraska, that he actually had to experience and produce and give birth to before going on that next journey. And had he missed that step, who knows? Born in the USA may never have happened. We certainly wouldn't have had Nebraska, which, to his music fans is a pivotal, sort of album and piece of art in his catalogue, which his fans, I know, appreciate dearly. So think about that in your own journey. Sometimes it may not be a straight line destination to that next goal or that next objective. There may be an incredibly important journey or watershed moment or goal or event on the way to that you actually need to fulfill and need to deliver upon, so that you can then reach that journey beyond that. So I'll leave you to ponder, how Springsteen and Us come together and merge in your own evolution, but it was certainly something that resonated in how that could apply to our own personal journey, and certainly to the business journey in terms of our goals. I'll leave you to reflect on that, and I look forward to connecting with you again next time. All the very best.